Good morning. You're listening to Central Wisconsin's 24-hour information station, AM 1320 WFHR. It's time now for the Morning Magazine, brought to you by Comfort Air Heating, Cooling, Plumbing.
Welcome, everyone, to Morning Magazine for this 5th of May, 2021. Your host, James J. Malouf here. We're spending our hour today with the Wood County Sheriff's Department. And give me a second to catch my breath because I got to get all these names in. All right, so we have Sheriff Shawn Becker joining us on the phone. Good morning, Shawn.
Good morning, James. Great to hear from you.
Good to have you with us, sir. Thanks so much for being with us. Also with us, Captain Quentin Ellis. Good morning, Quentin.
Good morning.
Oh, he's the chief deputy.
He's the chief. And Captain Ted Ashbeck as well with us. Good morning, Ted.
Good morning.
Also want to wish good morning to Laura Valenstein. Am I saying that right?
Yes, exactly.
Valenstein, okay. Laura is Wood County Board member. She is on the chair of the Jail Ad Hoc Committee. And thanks for being with us, Laura.
Glad to be here.
I appreciate all of you and what you all do for our community and spending some time with us today. I want to thank our friends over at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media, Kevin and the gang over there. We appreciate you guys. Thanks everybody for being in today. So we wanted to sit back and talk about the NFL draft for a while, but I guess we got bigger things that we should probably talk about.
What about Aaron Rodgers? Should we talk about Aaron Rodgers? Huh?
Yeah. Quentin, we're getting to that a little bit. We'll see if there's time for that in the show after we get done talking 90s baseball, Shawn.
Yeah, Frank Thomas. Here we go.
There we go. So our main topic today is the jail and kind of getting into that. And we'll certainly kind of we'll talk with Laura a little bit more about some of these things in a moment. But Quentin, I was wondering if you could kind of start us off with the conversation and where we're going to begin with that.
Sure. I think we talked, Sheriff Becker and I, about, what could we use this month's show for, and really we want to bring attention to all of the work and investigation, if you will, that has gone into evaluating our current jail situation. And given an hour, I think it's an excellent opportunity to not take this hour to say this is a new jail and this is why we need it and force that issue, but rather we could look at the whole process. This is something that's been examined all the way back into the early 2000s. They did a jail study at that time. This study, I would say, has been very comprehensive. And if we just walk that path of what went into the study, the investigation of gathering the facts, the ad hoc committee, and all the excellent questions and concerns that they brought up that we investigated, I feel that the hour would be an excellent opportunity to provide those details to the listeners, to kind of educate that this isn't something that's come up overnight. This is something that's been talked about for 20 years, been investigated extensively over the past year plus. The Jail Ad Hoc Committee has been meeting regularly, openly posting those meetings, even recording them, posting them online. And so the listeners can then also get a Reader's Digest version during this hour, as well as access to all that work that's been done by going back and looking at previous meeting minutes and the like. We'd also have, a good time to answer questions in a public forum here if people feel the need to call in. Just an opportunity to be forthright, transparent with this whole project and the investigation into it.
Yeah, and it's something that we appreciate so much. It's one of the things. One of the first things that I noticed talking with Sheriff Becker and everything was transparency. That's important, and it's so much nowadays. And appreciate that out of you guys. And with any topic, but with this topic in particular, I have to admit that when I saw what Sheriff sent me some notes and everything, and I saw what we were going to be talking about today, I felt a little bad for you guys because you shouldn't have to be doing this. We should be doing this as community members. We should be having a show about this, or maybe Laura and I having a conversation about this. You guys should not have to be fighting for this. And I say fighting as a loose term, certainly, but we as a community, one of our major concerns should be your safety and the inmates' safety. And to me, that stands above anything else that we talk about today. There's certainly a lot of details we're going to get to, and we're going to answer any questions anybody has out there, 424-2600, if you want to call up. But I got to get that out of the way right away because it would have just came out in one of the moments when we were talking about something else, and I just throw it out there. I do feel on that situation. I think that this is an opportunity for something that you hit on, information and correct information and getting that out there and everything. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to talk about this subject. Now, when it comes to this, Ted, why is this something that that is such a concern, that this is something that we need to get started on?
Well,
as far as getting people to understand why we need this, why we need a new jail.
well, I guess we're not really here to tell you whether you do or you don't. We're here
Right,
to provide
yeah.
the information, and that's up to the community and our elected officials that then to make the decision of whether what choices we make. But for the standpoint of what we're at, from where we started back in 2000, we were talking about doing basically the same thing, and now here we are 20 years later talking about basically the same thing again, building the exact same size structure. But the difference is over this time is we've actually added different outlets. The electronic monitoring program where we have 50 people out on it a day. And at that time, we were looking at the same size, and our population has grown well beyond the 200 mark. We were at 271 prior to COVID, and now, even with COVID, we're at 200. So our population, if we do nothing, just continues to grow. And the opportunity is there for us to do some programming, which is important in order to help individuals. And in our case, the current jail doesn't have space to do the programming, so it makes it difficult to even start the process to help the individuals understand what's going wrong or how they can change their life. All we're doing is holding on to them, letting them back out in the community after their time is served. They commit another crime, and they come right back to us.
And Sheriff Becker, this is where I think maybe the first conversation you and I had off air was about stopping this revolving door and putting an end to that, while at the same time diving into the mental health issue. And this touches on a couple of different things that a newer jail would be able to provide more access and more ability for, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's something that we talked about at length about in the last year. Just the mental health side of things, and the county's been making an investment in mental health, and particularly in our jail. We did get some grant monies to fund a discharge planner, a jail discharge planner, which is going very well. Where Sarah's been on the show before, and has since identified some significant needs that our inmate population has, and that's coming through the programming end of things, and that challenge of our current facility just does not have the room for the programming that we want to invest in, and jail inmate programming is a great opportunity to lower that recidivism rate, and I've said it before, if you can help people while they've made mistakes. They're coming into our facility. They're going to do some time for the mistakes they've made. While they're with us, can we help them out become successful once they're released and they return to their community, whether it's Marshfield, Wisconsin Rapids, Nakusa, anywhere in Wood County? If they can become successful once they've done their time, they get a job, they start working, they're continuing with the services that the county provides, and they're successful, they're paying taxes. That's a huge win for everybody, and unfortunately with the way that's just one part of our facility now is, the challenge of programming. The space is extremely limited. And then you look at, and I know that we'll get into this a little bit more as we talk, the out-of-county housing costs and the lack of programming. We house 90 people out of county, and really they're viewed, and this is a harsh thing to say, but they're viewed as a revenue source by the other counties, in Adams and Wapaka counties, that they're getting Wood County taxpayer money, and what are we getting in return? What's our return on investment besides putting somebody out of county while they do their time? There really isn't much. I mean, they're not getting that opportunity for the inmate programming that Wood County is committed to. So that's probably one of the bigger points that I can make. But no, circling back to the investment that Wood County has been making in mental health has been huge, and we're seeing it through the sheriff's department and our jail.
Yeah, well said, sir. And I apologize. I got a little distracted. I was Googling the word recidivism or whatever you said there, using these big words on us and everything. I'm joking. But you bring up some really important points there. And I know we've talked about it before, so I appreciate you bringing them back to this show. And it leads us into talking with Laura. And Laura, again, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate all of our Wood County Board chair members and everything, and everybody on the board. When it comes to when this topic first came to you, what was the first thing that you did to get into this, to learn more about it?
Sure. So, to be completely honest, when this topic first came up, this is my first term on the county board.
Okay.
So I came into this very blank.
Yeah.
And when this topic first came up, I was like, that's a lot of money. Why aren't we funding, why can't we put this money into schools? Why can't we put this money into anything else?
They're fine.
Right.
They're fine. Yeah.
But the more I learn about it, I've kind of gone from, why do we need to do this, to, oh my gosh, what are we going to do if we don't do this? We've established a really strong need here, I think.
Whatever you say today, that line right there, I hope that stays with people, that what happens if we don't? Because while I am not a person that believes in scary news, I don't like scaring people. I don't think that that's real news. I don't believe in that kind of thing. I am a big believer in playing some offense and not just playing defense. And I go back to what was done at City Hall with the metal detector that was put in over there. And that wasn't put in because we had some horrible thing happen at City Hall. So now we're going to put a metal detector in. That was done before something horrible happened. We played some offense on that. I feel like we need to do a little bit more of that, but we have to be smart about it, certainly. And one of the ways of doing that is something like this. And this is, again, just my opinion and me talking here, but I do think that this is playing some offense, not only getting this information out to the public and researching this and finding out the best way to do this, but getting it done. And as we've touched on a couple of times here and in other conversations, this isn't new. We've been talking about this for almost 2 decades, I believe. So it's something that really... we're just kicking the can here, and at a certain point, don't you get tired of kicking a can? Don't you get tired of just dealing with that and everything? That it's something that there's a number of levels that this is affecting, and we've touched on the safety of our officers, of inmates, and those sorts of things. Programs that we're able to do if we have a newer jail and those kind of touching on this stuff. Laura, from your perspective and being a board member, what is one of the first things that you think of when looking at this subject?
Yeah, I think that we've been putting a Band-Aid on this problem for, longer than 20 years. We've been Band-Aiding it for probably 30 years. And it, like you had mentioned before, it's not a glamorous thing to do. But the corrections model is changing, and it's important that we keep up with that. We don't need to just put people in jail, hold them there, and let them go. That's not going to serve our community.
Well, and the definition of insanity.
Right.
We keep doing this thing, and we keep doing it over and over again, and then we wonder, why is society so messed up, or why is this going on? Well, we got to do things differently. We have to adapt. We've got to be a little bit smarter about these things. You touched on something else there that I thought was really good of the advantages of doing something like this. And I want to highlight some of that again as well. I don't know, Quentin, Ted, Shawn, if one of you guys want to start there or take that. But there are certainly, any chance we can mention that the advantages of doing something like this. I want to make sure we do that.
Sure. Well, I can start. And my main focus on this is I oversee the department budget, so it's not like Shawn said, seeing them as a revenue. We don't see that, but when you just look at the logistics of what we're doing now, we're spending $1.3 million a year to house inmates at Wapaka and Adams County. That's just contractual rates of 90 inmates per day and the transport costs associated with getting them back and forth. As Shawn said, there's no return on investment on that. Is we're not even investing in the people that are incarcerated. When they're out of county, they don't receive programming. They're just sitting their time. So over, you look at 10 years of an average cost, it hasn't always been 1.3, but an average over 10 years, it was 11 or 12 million dollars that we've spent just to house them and not better them in any way, shape, or form. So that's a lot of money that is just being sent out. With a new facility, they're more efficient, they're more staff efficient. We're questioned. One of the first questions we got asked: how much is it going to cost? How much more is it going to cost to staff a facility, a new one where you're housing more people here? And we had to take a hard look at that, and we looked at adding, I believe it was 8 or 9 corrections officers and a maintenance worker directly assigned to that. That cost plus increased contractual costs for mental health services, medical, food services, and the like, we still save over $500,000 a year for operations costs. Now that's keeping all of the incarcerated individuals in Wood County, increasing the programming space and availability that they have, giving them a safer environment to live in themselves, our staffs to work in, and we're coming up operationally $500,000 ahead. that could be then applied to any borrowing or helping offset other county deficits or capital improvement borrowing. There's a number of ways. $500,000 at a minimum can go a long ways.
And you're not saving that money by making Shawn do most of the physical labor. That's not
No,
how you're saving the money. Okay. All right.
Certainly, I'm not doing it because I'm a little guy. So, but no, that in itself is some savings there, and that I hate to make it a money issue because it's so much more than that. But when you said what happens if we do nothing, our facility is aging. It was built in the 50s, added on to in the 80s. There's a number of ways it's lacking as far as compliance with Department of Corrections guidelines. To even keep it operational, we're looking at over $5 million in repairs. That's not improvements. That's repairs.
Right.
Repairs to sewer lines, HVAC systems, locking mechanisms, infrastructure for wiring, computers, and the like. And that's just to keep the doors open. Right now at our facility, we can't get an ambulance in the Sally Port. We can't get an ambulance because they've grown in size into the secure Sally Port to provide help to our inmates. So if we start rebuilding that, your cost to get more compliant and not even increase bed space in our facility or increase programming space could be in the $20 million.
I'm so glad that we got into the economic part of this because I know that there are certain people that's all they're waiting for that. That's what they listen for is numbers. They want to know that what this is going to cost and how much their taxes are going to go up and these little things and all these, not little things, but these things like that. You touched on where I would like to turn the conversation right away is to the money that the benefit, the investment that this is. Because make no mistake, this isn't something that we just want a nice new building or something like that. Like this is an investment in your community. This is an investment in your society. Yes. I cannot stress that enough. This is something that's got many different layers to it, whether we're talking about safety or the economic impact that it can have. There's so many different things. I love my Jeep. I didn't know a man could love a vehicle, but until my Jeep out there. Maggie's my girl. I love that Jeep. It's one of the best relationships I've ever had. Don't tell her this, but I've been looking at new vehicles because I could put another 800 in her, and then I could put another 300 in her, and so on and keep doing this and everything. But eventually, she's going to break down, and I'm going to have to just buy a new vehicle. So I'm looking at different vehicles. That's what I got to do. I don't want to do it, but I have to. We need to do this. We need to look at this in these sorts of ways. That Father Time's undefeated, and this jail is no different. It's time.
Yeah, and not to throw anyone under the bus from the 50s or the 80s, but our current jail was not designed with maintenance in mind, and it wasn't designed with improvements in mind. You know, the plumbing is cast iron, and it's literally rotting in the ground. Yeah,
I don't think that's at all throwing people under, because especially if you look at a lot of the architecture of that time, that's a lot of the way they were doing that. That's just the way that they were building stuff and everything. I don't know if they didn't know any better or what have you, but regardless, that's a solid point. That there's so much of that, and we're seeing throughout the country right now, infrastructure being redone and being reworked for a reason. It's important. It's important. Right. We can't get anywhere without good roads. We can't. I mean, just had a bridge collapse the other day. That was just a horrible incident and things like that. We don't want that to be us. We don't want, again, we don't want a tragedy to make us finally realize, oh, we needed a new jail. Wow. Did anybody know that we needed a new jail? Like, because this has been, something that we've been talking about quite a bit.
Right. And not to mention the insurance aspect of it. We've had several very large insurance claims over the last few years due to inmate safety. Huh. And we're getting to the point where we're nearly uninsurable.
I see why you guys brought her in. I see why. She's good at this. Laura, I did not even think about that, to be honest with you. And I've thought about this subject quite a bit over the last couple of years and done a lot of homework, and I haven't even looked into that.
Yep. Yeah, so we're insured by Aegis, who insures most of the county properties, but we've had large insurance claims. Our premiums are going to go up drastically if we don't make improvements, and it's mostly because of the physical design of our jail, because there is just not good sight for the corrections officers to be able to see the inmates.
So, I mean, again, that's another thing that's not going to go down. That's not going to, there's no reversing something like that. So going back to the economic impact that this can have and saving us money and that sort of thing. And I know that's a little controversial, but we might be able to save some money here doing this. And I know that's a touchy subject for a lot of people, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing. We could actually do that. We could actually help our community with these things on an economic level as well as on a safety level, a mental health level, and so on and so on. Sure. We're going to take a quick commercial break, catch our breath a little bit here. And when we come back, we'll have some more fun with our Wood County Sheriff's Department and our friends at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. It's Morning Magazine on AM 1320 WFHR.
Good morning and welcome back to The Morning Magazine, presented by Comfort Air Heating, Cooling, Plumbing. It's time for part 2.
Welcome back, everyone, to Morning Magazine for this May 5th, 2021. Your host, James, here. We're joined by our friends from the Wood County Sheriff's Department. Have Captain Quentin Ellis, Captain Ted Ashbeck with us, Laura Valenstein from the Wood County Board, and, of course, Sheriff Shawn Becker with us as well, and our friends from Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. I think I got everybody. I think I did. We appreciate all of you being with us today. We've been talking about the idea of having a new jail in this community and just giving people the information about that. Certainly not trying to sway or tell anybody how to think or what to do or anything like that, but it's important to have all the correct information for you to be able to make those decisions. So that's what we're looking to do here today. But we do want to encourage you to call up if you want. If you have questions, 424-2600. Always encourage you to join the conversation. So the things that we've been able to touch on, what haven't we been able to talk about or been able to get into yet today, Shawn?
Well, the site, going back to the original study in 2000, the site that was looked at was around the courthouse campus, but it was a one-level facility with 3 pods, and that would basically the county would have to acquire some property around the courthouse, which, Laura and I talked about this at length, and I would not be in favor. I don't think any of us would be if we had to buy people's property, residences, go down the path of, eminent domain, which is, it can get to be a really tough subject for people when they have to, sell their property. With the site that we have, figured out now and the facility that we've worked with Venture Architects on and the Samuels group of kind of vetting, hey, what would be the best design and where can it go? And ideally, you want to keep your jail and sheriff's department connected to the courthouse because everything is working together. With the courthouse, with the courts, and the jail, it makes sense to keep everything together. Yeah. So while we have been putting together a plan, and again, this is all online. We developed. It took 10 tries to really look at what a facility would look like, and where would it go. And, downtown Wisconsin Rapids, the jail's already there. And, we started talking about why don't we, demolish the current jail and put a new one right there. It's already there. The space is there. Let's just do that. And logistically, that wasn't going to work. Ruben Van Tassel, our maintenance director, he thought of that. And we thought it was a really great idea. But then logistically, while you build this project, which will take around 2 years, what do you do in the meantime? Wood County has to have a jail. We have to do something, and it just logistically, would not work. So then we had to go to, okay, now what else will work? And then through the process of, the ad hoc committee, and, I appreciate Laura and everybody, all the time that they've been putting into this, we kind of came up with a plan, all right, here's a multi-level facility that'll go right next to us. It won't require us to purchase any property. The only concern, or if you want to even call it an issue, is we have to have the city of Wisconsin Rapids vacate Avon Street. Well, looking at that, Avon Street in this area, the county owns property on both sides, and all the utilities service the courthouse. So it looks like that shouldn't be an issue, but that's going to be up to the city of Wisconsin Rapids if we move forward with it. But the big point that I want to make is, all right, we have a design that will go on the courthouse campus. We will not have to purchase anybody's property. It's basically just kind of shifting the jail where it is currently now and moving a little bit, well, not a little bit, moving it to the south. And then, then we have to discuss what we want to do with the old jail. I think there's a lot of opportunities for the county board to consider as we move forward, hopefully with this project. And now we've got some more space downtown with the courthouse. With the old jail, do you just shell it out, basically pull the interior of what's in the jail now, and you can utilize that space for the future for office needs maybe? Or do you take the whole thing down And then you've got opportunities in the future to deal with either parking or, you remember, the River Block building, the county does not own that. That's on a lease that might be up in around 22 years or so. And maybe, there's some opportunities in the future. And that's some forward thinking that we've got attached to this project. That's not just dealing with the jail itself, but, other county, entities, human services and things of that nature that can be discussed. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but, the site is now, zeroed in on staying on the courthouse campus. The jail's already downtown. It's already there. Here we would have, a multi-level facility about the height of the courthouse, but everybody will be here. Getting back to the out-of-county housing, situations we have there with costs and people, everybody will be under one roof. And I think that was like a 2-year process. The first plans were, kind of, I wouldn't say all over the place, but there was, options out there, and it really took the ad hoc committee coming together and discussing this, and all of a sudden it came together like, hey, we do have a plan that we all can agree upon, and it'll fit downtown in Wisconsin Rapids, where the jail already is. And I think that's an important thing to note, because now we're not trying to acquire other people's property. I think we have a really good working relationship with the city of Wisconsin Rapids, and the impact of Avon Street isn't a huge impact on the city. Like I said, the county owns both sides of the property. The utilities are all servicing the courthouse. It makes sense of the location that we've picked, that it'll work.
Some of the things that you touched on there, I think, are really key for our listeners, especially the idea of nobody having to pick up and move and that sort of thing. This isn't really going to be a huge disturbance if this happens to people living in that area. Those are all key notes to make. I wanted to make sure to touch on this, too, because you mentioned it, and I know we've talked about it in the past, but just to remind people, if they want to see information about this, if they want to see what we're talking about, you mentioned it's online.
Yeah, take a look at, we've been, as Quentin, mentioned, we've been pretty transparent about this. We have been. We talked about it several times on your show, James. We've talked about it on Marshall Radio. All the meeting minutes from the point that, a couple of years ago, when we decided to forego, a remodeling project at the Sheriff's Department and put that money towards, a jail study. That wasn't my idea. That came up from some county board members and our staff, like, hey, let's take a look at this again. And that was shortly, after, taking office. Let's sit down and look at this again. Our contracts are going to be coming up with, Wapaka and Adams County on out-of-county housing, and let's take a look at this. And then we said, yeah, let's put the money towards the study. We've worked with venture architects before on space needs for the county. And we reached out to them, and that's what started the ball rolling. And we've been very transparent in our public safety committee meetings. There's been every month when we meet, there's part of the jail study on there, and we've always provided updates on there. And of course, Venture Architects and the Samuels Group presented with us to the county board their results of the study, and that was last, I believe, July. And, we've been still discussing it since. And, I have to really commend our county board chair, Lance Flemel, for putting together the ad hoc committee, because we seem like we're kind of spinning our wheels. Like, hey, the needs are there, but we need to look at this a little bit more. And that's where the ad hoc committee really came in, where we could sit down. And, again, thank you, Laura, for being part. I know you're putting a lot of time into this concern, this issue, this project. Along with the rest of the committee, and that's where we've been really vetting a lot of the questions that have come up, and it just keeps building. The need on so many different levels have been brought up, and you look at timing. The borrowing rates are so low right now for projects like this, and you've got people, the community impact of a project like this. You look at, it's going to take a couple years to complete this project if it gets approved. Look at how many people are going to be employed from all the contractors, local contractors. Another thing, getting back to the borrowing that was brought up, we can go to local banks and be competitive with our local banks on borrowing for the county. That was was really interesting to hear. I mean, a lot of what we're going to do if we do this will stay locally here within Wood County, and I know that it's going to be a competitive process with people that want to be part of this project, if we move forward with it. So there's a lot of, like I said, a lot of the needs have just been building, and that's where it comes in from the ad hoc committee that they've taken this on, and we really appreciate that the seriousness that they've taken this to the level they have.
Mm-hmm.
We got the opportunity to, tour the Eau Claire County Jail, which has a different style. It's newer. It's modular design. It was a very, impactful takeaway for me personally. And I've toured that jail twice now. And I believe that had an impact on everybody that took the tour last week.
I imagine. I can only imagine, and it is a really cool looking. It is all just coming together. It can come together and look really cool. I gotta admit, I'm a little thrown off here, Shawn. I didn't know that you guys saw other radio stations. I didn't know that you talked to other radio stations. This is throwing me off. Next, you're gonna tell me Kevin records other people too. This is not. I didn't. All right, I'll move on.
Kevin, don't answer that.
We will talk off air about that. We'll figure. No, you bring up something that I was really hoping we would be able to get into, and is revenue and the opportunities of revenue. And it's so funny that you bring up real estate, because you were talking about this, and I happen to think of a couple of conversations I've had with J.R. Seward about one of the main things that comes up when we're talking is people want to move to this area. They just don't have the inventory. There's not enough houses for people to move into. So that's the biggest thing that they're worrying about. So not to say that, they tear the jail down and they can put houses there, but all these different things. Maybe they put a business there, and wherever that business was going to go, they're able to build houses. I don't know the trickle down effect that this can have, the domino effect it can have, but there is an effect there. There is certainly something that is there that is worth thinking about when thinking about this subject and where we're going to go with this and everything. It also, and I know it ain't the prettiest thing to say, but let's be honest too. People drive through your city. They look at it, and they look at things, and they see this. They see a brand new YMCA. They see the Riverwalk. They see different things in our community. So everything that doesn't look that shiny and new, which we can't obviously update everything, but things that don't look that way, it brings it down a notch. And whether I'm talking about a dog park or anything like that, these are things that, they may seem kind of like, what is that really that important? All this adds up. When we're talking about keeping people in the community, when we're talking about the senior class of this year, of all of our high schools and everything, asking some of these kids to stay in this community, or bringing new people into the community, these things matter. It all ties together.
It's funny you mentioned that, James, with the appearance. That's something worth noting. It's something I didn't think about as an initial concern, because I walk past the jail every day going to work. When we tour Eau Claire County Jail, you wouldn't know you're walking up to the jail. The way these are built, the shell looks like an office building or something you'd see in a larger city. You're not going to see raised fences, guard towers, razor wire. It's going to be if built, a nice looking facility. Again, Eau Claire County Jail, you walk up to it, it looks like you're walking up to an office building. It does not look like a jail. So
I've seen pictures of that. It does look like an office. Yeah.
I think that's well worth noting too. For the community that surrounds it, the jail is already there. Our jail looks like a jail. You have little windows, you can see bars in them. This won't be the case.
And it's certainly not to try to make the jail look like a fun house or anything like that necessarily, or that we're all caught up in appearance here. But it does play a factor, not only with what I was mentioning there, but to me, and you guys know way better than I do, but we've been talking so much, especially over the past year, of building the bridge between community and our officers, making that better. And if not to say the building looks friendlier or something like that, but for lack of a better word, that stuff matters. Appearance matters. If we had you guys walking around every day with AK-47s and decked out in all the armor you could have and everything, little kids are probably not going to feel the most comfortable walking up to you. It's just a fact. Anybody walking down the street like that, they wouldn't necessarily. This is something that plays into things where they see that badge and they feel hopefully feel immediately comfortable that they can go and talk to you. Things like this matter when we're building these bridges, when we're making sure that our youth growing up has a good relationship with our officers and vice versa. Sure. All this stuff adds up.
If I could add too, One of the nice things is if we do build this new building, we currently don't have room to offer day services to inmates who have been released or inmates who are on electronic monitoring. We just don't have the room. If we have that, we can offer that within this new facility. So it becomes more of a community center where they can come and go and have that touch point that we're able to still meet with them and keep them out of the jail.
And it's not like we're trying to say that or design the jail to be, a shopping center or something like that. It's a jail. It's a jail. You don't want to go there. If I don't want to go there or anything like that. I'll drive past. I'll look at it. I'll wave to you guys, but I don't want to go there. But that is part of this too. Is that again? If it happens, I can say that all I want, but life happens and things happen, and if I end up there, I want to. And this is to every community member, anybody out there that pays taxes, anybody that votes, anybody. You would think that if you are in that situation, you want to go to a safe environment. You want to go to okay, I messed up, I deserve to do some time, or whatever happens here, I'll pay my price, but I want to be safe while it's happening. This is just as much about that safety as it is our officers' safety and these sorts of things. This is all a layered situation, and these things add up to it. Is there anything that we haven't gotten to touch on that one of you wants to get to right now?
I think it'd be beneficial. First, I'll just knock some cost stuff out because we're being transparent, and that's everybody's $1 million question is how much. Yeah. And the $1 million question is about 57. Okay. About 57 million, start to finish. Some construction costs, some other soft costs, if you will, for the things along the way, permits, things like that.
Not to cut you off, Quentin, but I got to say, I've done since we've been talking about this. I've looked into this in other rural communities and everything, and that's actually a lot lower than I've seen in other not big cities, smaller communities like ours and everything. So that I just felt like that was noteworthy. I never got to bring that up before when this has come up.
And I would agree, and that's. In large part to the ad hoc committee diving into things and challenging us a bit and challenging even the architect to say we don't care for that. We want this changed. We want this done differently.
Architect's never going to want to talk to us again.
But we
work for it.
The committee's been great to work with, and they've really. Not saying we want a jail. What do you have? Cookie cutter. They want a jail that works for our community, and that's driven some change in the design, which has saved some floor space and brought costs down. We're pleased with the design that we've reached so far. It'll work great for our needs. I think it's very beneficial for the community. And $57 million sounds like a ton of money. But as Sheriff mentioned, the borrowing rates are at all-time lows right now. Yeah. The projected impact on mill rate would be about 40 cents per thousand of household value. 35, Laura's saying? Okay. So 35 cents per $1,000 of house value, and our finance director has been involved. He's done some research. Average cost of a house in Wood County is $140,000. So you do the math, it's you're talking $45 to $50 per household in Wood County. So that's what people want to know. And again, we're not trying to sugarcoat anything. We're being upfront and honest with that. Right. Another thing I'd like to add before I think it'd be important for Ted to talk about programming and our lack of space for it now is our intent on this isn't like a field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. We're not trying to say let's build a 500-bed mega jail in Wisconsin Rapids. This is based off of years and years of research of booking numbers, trends, and what we want to do to offset recidivism and the recurring frequent flyers, if you will, offering other services. 300 is about the same number they were looking at in 2000. So we've done a lot of things to keep the numbers relatively the same. And actually, operating capacity, and Ted could speak to that, would be 80% of that 300. So it's in the lower 200s, and he could speak to our numbers. I think it's worth mentioning that the troubles we have with programming due to lack of space in our current jail, and I think Ted could speak to that.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, Ted.
Oh, no problem. The biggest problem that we have within our facility is kind of the way it's laid out as well. It's a linear style, kind of like a bowling alley, if you will. You got one thing on one end, except our booking's in the middle, so we got north and south. So anybody that has to go anywhere, somebody has to literally walk all the way down the hall, unlock a door, unlock another door, and then get the individual out and walk them, after you close the doors, all the way back to the building, which is all the way down to the middle to where the programming rooms are. So every single individual that has to go to programming has that type of, I guess, resources from the county put to it to an individual for us to go get them and do all these things to move everybody around. Newer facilities don't have that. You get to open the door in those blocks. The individuals walk into those programming areas on their own. You close the block. You count the people. You make sure everybody's in there, and then the education starts. And you can do that in multiple locations at the same time. Which, of course, when you're doing things in that type of capacity, and you can do it with less people, it's like that's where this communication with the ad hoc committee. We were thinking 3 towers, this and that, and going through the whole thing until during that same communication, it was, well, why not 2?
Yeah.
Holy.
Yeah.
Wow, there's an epiphany we never even thought of, and boom, and all of a sudden the numbers of staffing went down, everything starts to fit into place, and it's all because of those communications and with the community that we're not looking to just willy-nilly build something because we want to house people. We're actually trying to make it more useful and cost efficient for the county as itself to do with the same problem we have right now today. It's not we're trying to create a bigger problem. We're trying to actually do better with what we have.
I can't thank you enough for both of you for giving us some details, all the transparency that your department always has. Always appreciate that. But you touched on something really important there, Ted. I think that we've been talking a good game over the past year about focusing on mental health and as a society looking at that more closely and everything. There are things where you've got to put your money where your mouth is. You've got to be able to back that up. It's all well and good to talk a good game, but we got to put some actions behind it. Doing this is part of that. We are not going to be able to stop this revolving door. We are not going to have a safer society if we keep doing the same things we've been doing for the last 100 years. We've got to change things up. We've got to adapt. Our police officers out there, the communities out there are engaged in this. They want this. They want things to get better. Everybody does. But it takes work. And this is one of the things that it's going to take some work. It's going to take people to not only doing some homework on this subject, but deciding in their household, well, how do I feel about this? And where are we going to vote on this? Or where do we go on this subject? And when they're doing all this and they're balancing this out and they're having these conversations, I want to be able to direct them to, as Shawn had mentioned earlier, the website, or I'm not sure if it's an address or where people can find out the more information about this.
Sure. They can go to the Wood County website. If you just Google Wood County, Wisconsin, it'll pop up. And then the best place to look for it is under meetings. There's a tab right along the right-hand side of upcoming meetings and then archived meetings. You can go back and find the notes. And we're open 24/7. We get emails all the time. So if you can't find what you're looking for and you have questions to this, I would say they can email me. They can email the sheriff. Any one of our staff will get them what they're looking for. We're not too busy ever to do that. It might take us some time if we get a lot of them, but we'll respond to that. And I really appreciate you talking about the community involvement in this, because I would like to just give a shout out to all the local organizations and people that want to provide the programming. We have people that want to provide inmate programming through the ministry, through education, advocacy, counseling, you name it, mental health services, therapy. They want to come in and help the incarcerated population. And the truth of the matter is we don't have the space right now. Yeah. So you have law visits, attorneys, probation officers, mental health, I could go on and on. They're fighting for a room.
There's so many that you can't remember them all.
Yes, they are fighting.
That's pretty good.
They're fighting for time, James, to provide these services in a room not much larger than the studio we're in now. We just don't have the space available to do it. Now, this new design, there would be 2 rooms per pod that are significantly larger than this, that we could be offering, it would seem like almost 4 times the programming that we are now. Mm-hmm. The timing is limited due to our size and staff constraints. It would be much easier to implement. Our jail discharge planner did an excellent job compiling a report of our inmates are maybe getting a couple hours a week at best of programming. Mm-hmm. They should be getting programming a significant portion of their time while incarcerated. We can't provide that. And we want to, and yeah. This is a step in heading towards that. We have to have the space to do it. The questions have been asked: why don't we build off-site for programming? Again, you get into labor-intensive staff moving them because they have to be secured the whole time.
That goes back to, I feel like, the Band-Aid thing of just putting a Band-Aid on the problem and I appreciate the details that you're giving us there too, Quinn, especially because one of the things that I think about with this topic is not only all the details and things we've covered today, but the homework that you guys have put into this and how much that you have had to do. Or I appreciate the heavy lifting in that, but I really cannot thank you enough for sharing the ad hoc, boy, those words, it's a good thing I don't talk for a living, Laura. It's those kind of things that makes me all the more back you guys and believe in what you're doing, because you gave us a little example of it here and you didn't even intend to. You had your plan, you had your ideas, you bring in the ad hoc committee and they had some counterpoints and everything, and you listened to them, you heard them out, you guys found a compromise here and a way to do this. The idea of that, okay, maybe I don't have all the answers. I'm going to bring in some other people, another fresh set of eyes, and see what they think and everything. Any topic that we talk about with you all, I feel like that's important. And it just, here's another example of you guys doing that. I appreciate it. Just is shoehorn that in there, but I think that's noteworthy.
They've made my job extremely easy. All I have to do is ask a question, and I've got papers and papers of answers. So,
well, I was curious, Laura, how that felt for you guys on the board. If you guys had, problems with something and going to them about it and everything, like how they're going to take it. Like, you got to feel a little nervous at first. I know I would.
Yeah, I think I've put Quentin through a pretty solid amount of labor. Hey, can you predict how much this is going to cost in staffing in 15 years if we have, this scenario? And he's come up with numbers. So.
Well,
they've been great.
That's just impressive. First off, that take a moment just to appreciate that. That's impressive.
We all work together as a team. Ted's integral in that, and since we have just a few minutes left, I don't want to get off track, but I do want to take a moment to thank Laura and the Jail Ad Hoc Committee that they've put in a tremendous amount of work in this. They've really guided this investigation, and they've challenged us, no doubt about it. Yeah. But we're going to get a better product. And I don't mean it finished. I'm not saying the facility being built, the bricks and mortar better product. Right. We have a better vision of what needs to be done or doesn't need to be done to solve this problem.
It's a great way to put that.
And on top of that, we talk about all the constraints and limitations and troubles we have with our current facility. It is National Corrections Officer Week. And so my hat goes off to Ted and our corrections staff. They do a tremendous job, at a thankless job at times, making do with not only the toughest of conditions being in corrections, but in a facility that isn't exactly in their favor. So really, they do a top-notch job, and big shout out to them.
You stole my line. That's where I wanted to wrap up the show, but well done by you, Quentin.
Sorry, James. Sorry.
No, actually, you worded it a lot better than I could have. So,
local CO.
No, please don't.
To piggyback off that, Ted, to you, your staff, and the people that do that work, appreciate all the things that Quentin mentioned there so well, and the compassion. The compassion that involved in that. That is something that I don't think a lot of people think about or give credit to when they do think about it. But we take a lot of moments in society, I should say, the media takes a lot of moments to highlight when that kind of stuff doesn't happen. One of the things we try to do around here is do both. Is certainly cover the negative, but we also want to cover the positive. And that is a positive right there. That is something that unfortunately doesn't get talked about or mentioned enough, but we do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Shawn, before we let you guys go, we have about 2 minutes left. Is there anything that you wanted to touch on or anything we wanted to get out there before we let you go?
No, Quentin said it. Just to our staff, our corrections staff, we appreciate you. Thank you for being part of the team. It's every day isn't easy, but you're part of the team and you're appreciated. The ad hoc committee, again, thank you for Lance Plemmel for putting that together. Thank you, Laura, for chairing it. I don't think you knew what you were getting into in the beginning, but thank you so much for being there and asking the tough questions and working together with us. It shows a lot of teamwork, not only at our level but at the county board's level, that we're looking at something together seriously and trying to move forward with doing the right thing for our community. So thank you, Laura Valenstein. I really appreciate everything that you've done so far, and we've got some work to do, but we'll get there. So and thanks, James. Maybe next month I'll bring some more cards in and we can discuss the 90s baseball stuff that we keep blowing off, I guess.
One of these days, we keep blowing it off, but one of these days that we're going to have to focus on that. We need to talk about the important things in our society, and 90s baseball is one of them, sir. You keep dodging this subject, and we're going to have to get into it one of these days.
Yeah, we'll have to have our own show on it.
I think so. Just bring you in a coffee and sports one of these days. Do appreciate the time from you, sir. Thanks so much for joining us.
You bet.
Guys, one more time, I wanted to let people know about the web address and where they can find out more information. Can we get to that, Quentin, real quick?
If you just Google Wood County, Wisconsin, our Wood County page will come up that has links to all the departments. You can find out what's going on in all of them. But if you look to the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see a listing for meetings. If you look for the Jail Ad Hoc Committee, throughout those meetings, you'll find the notices, the agendas, and the packets. And if there's something you aren't finding, email me. My email should be linked through there. If not, it's qellis@co.wood.wi.us, or there's a generic sheriff email that will get routed to us. We'll get you the information.
Yeah, and we'll repeat that web address during Over the Back Fence in just a little bit. Thank you all so much for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate everything you do in the community and being with us today. Appreciate it. Be safe and strong out there. And a big thank you to Kevin, all of our friends at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media as well. We'll have more Morning Magazine for you tomorrow right here on AM 1320 WFHR.